Watch. A small southern town, a veteran teacher, and a shocking story of child sex abuse that could stretch back decades. 49-year-old Daniel Ecker started with the Shelby County school system in 1985. He taught fourth-grade children for 24 years, retiring in 2009. What transpired in those decades may have scarred countless lives. The dam broke within the last week when a girl, now 12 or 13, accused Acker of molesting her around 2009.
Acker admitted that he'd molested the child as well as more than 20 other young children during his 25-year career.
The layers to this small tragedy are many. Acker's father is a powerful man, the county commissioner. Police say his father's position didn't help him avoid charges, but he was investigated in 1992 for similar allegations, though never indicted. An attorney for Acker did not immediately return a message seeking comment. The details, the players, and the seriousness of the alleged crimes begs one question. Could this all have been stopped 20 years ago? And when questioned by police, Acker Jr. allegedly confessed. 20 young girls molested. He is charged with 4 counts of first-degree sexual abuse. Doesn't this sound familiar? Just like the Penn State scandal, a story about vulnerable children. And also, by the way, someone who was thought of as a good teacher, a good coach, capable of bad things. Young girls' lives have been impacted by a man in the community whom so many trusted. Was there a cover-up? Who knew? Joining us, Dr. Steve Perry, CNN contributor and author of the book When Push Comes to Shove, and my friend Tom Arnold, actor and himself a child sex abuse survivor. Tom, what is your reaction when you hear another story like this?
Well, I mean, first of all, I want to say, people make fun of Alabama and the South and that this kind of thing happens, but it doesn't happen there any more than it happens in the North. That's we know right. that. I just want to. Right. I'm grateful in one way because the guy copped to at least part of his crimes, and that saves so much. He didn't do that 20 years ago, but he did it now, and he admitted to 20.
Well, that's a fascinating thing you picked up on that I did not, and that's because you had to face down your abuser,
right,
and he wouldn't cop to any of
it,
which added to your sense of shame and helplessness.
Right, exactly. And I still, I got what I wanted when I confronted him, but I mean, it was 20-some years. And so I think of all these kids and all this time that they've gone through, and it is so much like the Penn State thing, because Sandusky was charged, or, he was interviewed about it years before, and if they'd done something, then they could have stopped it, and maybe it's the same with this guy.
Well, what do you think that is? Do you think that there's such incredible denial of, because it's such a horrible thing when it happens, nobody wants to believe it's happening, particularly somebody who on one level seems to be a great professional.
Right.
They don't want to believe that he or she is capable of something awful.
A lot of times they excel in their field. Sandusky was a great defensive coordinator, and this guy was obviously a great teacher, so to speak. So they excel in this area, and that the way they get some slack in the other areas. But the thing with teachers is, are they doing weird? Do they have lunch with this one student? Do they do outside the perimeter of the school? There's always signs. You see them afterwards, but now people can start looking for them now.
Well, and this is something for people at home to keep in mind. I mean, if you get any weird feelings, or if, these are grown men, they shouldn't be hanging out with teenagers or
kids.
Or kids.
What's that about?
What is that about?
Yeah.
That's right. You should, whenever you shake your head and go, what's that about?
Right.
Look a little more carefully. Now, here's a timeline of the events. In October 1992, Ackers Jr. placed on leave for child abuse allegations. November 1992, he is not indicted. February 1993, he comes back and he's reinstated as a teacher. January 2012, Ackers Jr. charged with child sex abuse after former students come forward, and in January admits to molesting more than 20 students. Steve, your thoughts on the school? Did they fail to protect their students?
Well, one of the challenges with finding a molester is that they hide in plain sight. These are people who are often affable, easy to get along with, sometimes the quote-unquote nicest people you're going to meet, because they have to get the child and the people around them to accept the lie that really is their sickness. We have to make sure that we understand that pedophilia is its own sexuality, not like homosexuality or heterosexuality. It's its own. These are people who are attracted to children. That's how they get off. And so it's a challenge on some level to find these people. But on the same token, rare is the occasion that somebody can have this level of sexual conduct or misconduct within a school setting for 20 years and no one knew anything. It doesn't seem reasonable to me. Children talk. colleagues talk. We all, as you said, we all look at adults and think to ourselves, man, he spent a lot of time with those 9-year-olds.
Do you have any
Not
suspicion?
in the traditional sense.
Do you have any suspicion that he was protected by his relatives in positions of authority? Or for that matter, are there such stringent laws to protect the employee that the school couldn't do the necessary investigations? Is there something like that going on here?
It has nothing to do.
Nothing. Right?
No, it has nothing to do with the school's laws. They could have gotten him, but I think it has something to do with something more basic, more pedestrian, which is people work with people. They like people. This is an affable guy. People don't want to believe that a person who they like has done something horrible.
Yeah.
And we've created this image of a molester as this horrible Quasimodo scary person, but in many cases, they are the people who you'd least likely think that they are. And it's because of those conditions that they're allowed to do. So I have to say to Tom, you know, it's a tremendously courageous thing for you to come out at any point in your life, because there are people who are watching us tonight who themselves are grappling with something that happened to them 30 years ago. And they're frightened, even though the person may be long gone, to come out, because most people feel like if they come out, these children in particular, that someone's going to say that they did something wrong. Because in order for a molester to really get at a child, they have to break them down into the lowest parts of who they are.
That's right. They had to make the victim feel responsible for the victimization, Tom, you've been through.